A mother and her two children were gathering berries in a forest where they built their home. They were chased out of the area by a creature that was wearing her husband's clothes.
What?
Bodega is a guide and a storyteller, escorting you through the night, lighting the way, warding off thieves, ghosts, demons, and other oddities. Along the journey, his companions would often share with him the most curious of stories that he'd record in his codex. Perhaps you just might find yourself traveling with a Bodega and sharing one of yours. Click that like. Yeah! If you're new here, subscribe and have the bell hit for notifications to stay up to date on all of the new content. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be. It's Ra here with Codega's Codex of Curiosities. I'm your guide on this journey, and while we explore these curiosities, and tonight it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a fantastic. I got a special guest, Ryan Shields, on. He's going to be talking about Dogmen. He is a writer. He is a researcher. He's done a lot of things, and we're definitely going to let him talk about what, Dogman, which is the topic of choice tonight. Couple things to get through before we jump to the interview. Like always, I'd like you guys to comment, like, share the video and or the audio if you're listening. Also, if you're listening to just the audio, you're going to be missing out on the video on my YouTube channel. I have extra content that I release, and tonight I'm going to be doing another interview after this, and of course I'm going to have that one is going to be released solely for the YouTube. Now, what does that mean? That means you're going to miss out on the audio because there's no audio. It's only on the YouTube, which is, a little downer, but come on over to the YouTube channel. On that note as well, I'm having, you guys all know that I record live on my rooftop. And so today we had a bit of a windstorm that was just crazy. And I'm not sure if you can hear the music, the Mexican music playing in the background. Fantastic atmosphere. But what happened with that windstorm is a third of my my roof blew off. So it's not the structure itself, but just the covering itself. So I heard a loud noise. I came up and checked, and it's flipped over on itself. So tomorrow looks like I got some work to do, some repairs. On that note as well, I also have merchandise. I have Patreon. Definitely could use some Patreon help now. So for the $5 tier, you get a shout out, and it helps me out immensely. It's $5 a month. Then I have the $25 a month tier. And with that one, and everything is just going crazy tonight. But with the $25 tier, what you get is you get some merchandise. You get a shirt, you get a couple shirts, you get a mug, you get a cool canvas tote as well. But on that note, you're going to see some of the products that I have also in my Printify storefront. So I want you to check that out. Tell me if you like it, and maybe order something. All right. Without further ado, I'm going to bring Ryan on, and we're going to welcome to the stage, Mr. Ryan.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Oh, great intro, by the way.
Oh,
That's a really cool intro. I was really enjoying that. It was really cool.
thank you.
Definitely caught my attention.
That's what I want.
Um,
That's what I want to go for. Attention grabbing. Speaking of attention grabbing, like I said, I record on my rooftop, and it seems that everybody
that's a
and
really
their
cool
dog,
spot.
yeah, everybody and their
That's
dog is
cool.
having a party tonight. So it hopefully it's not too loud. But well, Ryan, welcome to Codega's Codex of Curiosities. Thank you for that great comment and about my intro. Now, why don't you tell our listeners, viewers, and just about everybody else who you are and what are you bringing to the table?
I'm bringing a ton to the table. I hope you guys are going to buckle up and enjoy this roller coaster. Um, I am a shoot from the hip type of guy and person. It's just a part of my character, and I do research that's standalone and that nobody else does the type of research that I actually do. Now, I do some of the common stuff, that goes along in that field, but my name's Ryan. I am a born again Christian. I'm a firm believer in God. I have a really good walk and relationship with Him. I am a paranormal investigator. I am a dogman investigator and researcher. And I'm a writer and an author.
Wow, that is a long list for your resume there, and it's
Oh,
really
and
really
I am a 10th degree black belt in the art of ninjutsu too, so I'm pretty well versed.
wow. So when you're out there, you can protect yourself, is what you're saying.
Definitely, yeah.
That is awesome. So on our video here, for our viewers, it's blurred out over your mouth. Maybe you want to tell something just happened. So why don't you tell what just
Yeah,
happened?
thank you. 4 days ago, I had an altercation with another resident that lives in the apartment complex that I do. And I'm just going to be honest. I really don't care about backlash or anything like that because this is just me being honest. This is a trashy place.
Okay.
Not so much like outwardly, but there's a lot of things that go on here that should not happen. There's some really bad stuff here, and there's some not very good people here.
Okay.
And I had a run-in with one of those not very good people, and had a little altercation, and then I'll just cut to the chase here. I was out walking my dog, like probably about 20 minutes after the incident, and I get hit. She hits me with her car with the intention to maim or to kill me. So I got knocked into a wall that was basically I was standing at the corner of the sidewalk, and there was a little corner store. I get knocked really hard into the side of the corner store. There, I got hit so hard. There is a big indentation in the wall. Knocked out a few of my teeth, so the dentist has to do a bunch. So he pulled the rest of my top teeth, and I have to undergo an extensive amount of work to get all that fixed.
Wow, that is crazy. It's crazy things that happen now these days. Like I was saying earlier, it's something that you hear on the 6 o'clock news. You don't expect it to be happening to yourself. You get run down by a car. Like vehicular, I don't know, attempted murder almost is almost what it sounds like.
Right?
It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
There's all sorts of crazy stuff going on right now in the world. Because I live in San Francisco, and it is crazy here. And in the I think in Oakland, I think maybe I could be misquoting this, but I think yesterday there was a woman who is a psychic reader that ended up murdering her children and her husband because of the effects of the solar eclipse, and she murdered her 2 children and her husband, and then killed herself.
Wow. Wow.
That's what's going on in the world right now. Then a few days prior, there was a guy that barricaded himself in his home, barricaded in there with a high-powered assault rifle, taking on local law enforcement.
Jeez. Yeah, it's going to hell in a handbag. It sure sounds like it. There's so many things.
Quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. Wow. Yeah, it is quite the world we live in now these days, with all the craziness that is running amok, and people just I think one of the issues we're facing is like there's a lot of mental illness out there, but instead of like people dealing with it themselves, or not like themselves, but realizing I have an issue, like I do, and I don't tell other people that they have to put up with me because of my issue. I have to go.
Good point.
Yeah, I want to deal with it myself, but now these days it seems like we all have to accept everybody's mental illness and just be like, yep, like these, like I understand we're imperfect, but there comes a point where we have to go inside and look within and deal with our issues, and
I get it. Yeah. I suffer from PTSD and bipolar disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And here is the truth. With all the issues that are going on with people in the world and locally right now, and I think you brought up a really good point about mental illness, because most people don't even know they suffer from a mental illness. On the outside, someone could just think that they have anger issues when that's not the case at all. So if people would just speak up more and be honest about someone's actions, then they can't say that they weren't aware that they had some kind of an issue.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Ryan. So why don't we jump into, you are a writer. Why don't you tell us about some of these books that you've written? And, I know there's one in particular we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, I've written, I believe, 9 books. Now, they aren't like full-on 100-page books. Some of them are only 12 pages, but they're more like glorified gospel tracts, or these 2 books that I have in mind here. But I write ebooks. I am working on a paperback right now.
Okay, cool.
I'm working on the paperback version of the book that we're going to be in discussion about. But I have written, I believe, 9 books. Some of them are fictional, but to be honest with you, they all come from a place of truth. There's a real story behind each book, and each chapter. There is truth in every word in my books. Now, I only have I think 4 fictional books, but the others are cryptozoology and spirituality books.
Okay, cool. That's really interesting. Yeah, I know a lot of other authors who draw on experiences to, from actual experiences to create a fictional book. But it is, there's a lot of truth within those, and there has to be, with a lot of these books, you have to have a lot of truth. And
the worst thing a person could ever do is go into reading a book thinking it's just fiction. That is the worst thing you could do for yourself. That's how it's just very dangerous.
I agree. And I was saying I had started writing, and I want to write like a series of mini ebooks, actually, kind of like what you're saying, like 12 pages, loosely based on, my own experiences. Of course, I'm embellishing things and I'm, creating a different story, but I'm drawing from my own experiences to write these books. And I know exactly what you're talking about when you're saying, yeah, there's a lot of truth in these. So that's really cool.
Yeah, there is. I've had over I want to put the right number here, but I believe I've had over 10 dogmen encounters, or if the viewers don't understand or know what a dogman is, it's basically a werewolf.
Cool. Wow.
So I've had at least 10 or more, or a little over 10 encounters with these creatures over the span of my lifetime here. So
that is really interesting, and I know that's a topic we're getting into. So the book that and did you this book that you wrote, is that based on those experiences?
Yes, the book is based. It is the only book where you get to read about. Now, not all of my experiences are in there. Some I'm not at liberty to talk about, but most of my encounters are in this book, and other people's encounters that they've experienced are in this book as well.
Wow.
And
Okay.
what is special about this book, besides that, I have included in this book photos of victims that have lost their lives to dogmen encounters. Their picture is in this book too, so they are remembered and not forgotten.
I think that's really important. I feel that a lot of the victims, they lose they lose the truth, because it gets blamed on, a pack of wild dogs or
Right.
something else
Or coyote.
Yes, coyotes. Yes, and it's
Jesus, so ridiculous.
I had on Bettina Moss, and that was something she was really passionate about.
I like her.
And she jumped into this, like she was going through autopsy reports and everything. So she was going
really
deep
good
into this. Yeah, for sure she is. So let's jump into this book then. Why don't you start telling us some of these experiences? And you have to forgive me if I say stories. A lot of times I say stories, and I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, because in our past, we used to be storytellers. And what I meant by that is we pass down our history through stories. And I like to bring that back I like to bring back the word story, not to be associated, like it is fiction, but it's also nonfiction as well.
Story, just because someone uses the word story doesn't mean it's fictional. Story is just a word.
Exactly. Yes.
So, what would you like me to do with the book? The book is called Encounters with Dogmen, Special Edition, Deaths and Missing Persons. What would you like me to do? Would you like me to do?
Yeah. So why don't you tell me about some of the experiences in there, and then why don't we talk about some of your experiences as well?
Sure,
I really would like to hear some of them.
Let's do that. Let me find one here, or a couple. Oh, here's some really good ones at the beginning here.
For sure.
This is under American Dogman History. Now, these articles that I'm going to read, not all of them were found online. People actually anonymously tipped these to me and gave me historical articles that are pretty much impossible to Google search. You have to do things a certain way, and they're pretty much very hard to find. But here are a few of them. So this is under American Dogman History, or what the normal person would call a werewolf. There is a difference, by the way, between werewolves and dogmen. Dogmen the only thing that dogmen share with werewolves is their looks and some of their behaviors. That's about it. But there is a difference.
Okay.
But so here's the first one. 1781. Wow. A man cutting timber trees was attacked by what he thought was a half wolf, half bear creature. The man climbed to the top of a tree to escape the attacking creature. Then in 1784, a mother and her two children, this one is really, really scary.
Okay.
A mother and her two children were gathering berries in a forest where they built their home. They were chased out of the area by a creature that was wearing her husband's clothes.
What? Really?
Yeah, that one. When I first read that one, my mind just went off up into it went crazy.
So
And
what is your thoughts on that one specifically? Because that one I find really,
I
really
think her
interesting.
husband was a werewolf, and
Yes. Yeah.
she just didn't know. That's what happens in Welcome to Life. Not everybody is who you think they are.
Yeah.
Everybody has some deep dark secret about themselves. And do you think they're really going to tell you that they are a werewolf, and then you marry them and spend time with them? No, they are going to have a lonely, terrible, sad life if they're honest. So
It's true. It's extremely true. Now, okay. Now we're kind of getting into this, and I know I'm going to ad lib a little bit here.
sure.
Now, do you believe werewolves are like I don't want to say curse, but maybe like a genetic thing that is also could be passed down genetically, or is it something that you know like Hollywood be like, oh, you got bitten by a werewolf, you turn into a werewolf, or I think that's kind of more like a vampire as
It's
well.
pretty much all the above.
Okay,
It's all there is. That's how that is the truth. It's all of it. Now, for the mainstream, the original werewolf, they are cult members. They sell their souls and give up their body to become that, but they have to have such a hatred for God and for human beings, just for humanity and life itself. That's
now do you think
that's
that's
one of the
closely
makings.
oh sorry do you think that's closely related to skinwalkers as well, where
Basically, skinwalkers are a little different.
yes,
They're now one of my pet peeves, one thing that really annoys me is so many people overuse that word. Everything's a skinwalker. Oh, this sighting is a skinwalker. Oh, skinwalker here. Skinwalkers are Navajo only.
Okay.
They're Navajo Indian. Now, there are skinwalker creatures. A skinwalker is a witch.
Okay. Yes.
A werewolf is not a witch. A werewolf is someone that has given their freedom and their will up to the will, have given their lives over to the will of Satan and the will of the demon wolf. That's what transforms the person into a werewolf, is the demon wolf. A skinwalker is a witch. They take any shape, any form. That's the difference. And they are only Navajo. Only
yeah. And that makes sense as well. Like I know, like that term I know is Navajo. I know there is other cultures that, you know, the witches do the same thing. And I know it's not like here in Mexico, it is a common thing where, you know, brujos, not brujas, so not like the female, but the males, like a man will transform into another animal. And usually people pay them to go spy on, you know, their ex-lover or their boyfriend or their girlfriend to see if they're cheating. It's very a lot of jealousy.
I think those are called familiars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think that's what those, because there are different types of everything out there, just like there are, not every human being looks the same. We all have certain things that define us as a human being and as an individual. But you'd be surprised if I was to, we don't have enough time, but if I was to tell you everything that is out there, everything, you probably wouldn't want to leave your house.
I could imagine, you know, but I feel though that, you know, as long as we are protected or we go with the grace of God kind of thing, you know, then
you have to the only way to overcome the fear of these things is by knowing about them.
You are correct. I couldn't agree more with you. You know, the lack of knowledge creates fear, because then, you know, it's kind of like knowing the names of the demons, you know, then you're able to cast them out. And it's having that knowledge, having that power about them, which I think is powerful. It is very powerful.
In God's word, it says we have been given the power to overcome snakes, devils, and scorpions. That means speaking, just simply speaking the name of Jesus over these things and over anything and everything that comes out of your life or your mouth. That's your power.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Well, great. I like how this conversation has gone. You know, we've tackled some other subjects here, but let's go back to that book then. You know, let's bring it back to that book.
All right. 1805. This is a sad one. In 1805, a boy, a boy was swimming in a local creek with 3 other boys. The boys never returned home. When one of their fathers went over to the creek to see what was holding the boys up, the father claimed there were 2 6-foot-tall bipedal dogs eating what was left of the boys' remains.
Wow.
And there's a couple more. In 1855, this is a really good one. In 1855, the Shoshone tribe engaged in a campaign against wolf-like creatures that were abducting their women and their children. These wolf-like creatures would come in the early morning hours to abduct the children and the women. The tribe leaders conducted a plan to kill the creatures. The warriors of each tribe buried themselves next to each housing unit. When the creatures came into their village, the warriors sprung from their hiding places and managed to kill a few of the creatures. The tribe warriors did this every night until the creatures stopped coming around.
Wow. That's interesting.
Right. Yeah. And I believe one more. 1901, Florida. A father and his son were fishing in the Everglades when the son noticed something watching them. The son tells his father what he's seen, and his father thought his son was trying to scare him. The father returns his attention to fishing. The 2 of them are attacked by a large gator. Then out of nowhere, the gator gets attacked by a canine creature. The creature kills the gator and attacks the father. The son ran off to get help. When the son returned with help, his father was nowhere to be found. All that was left of the father was a pool of blood. The father's body was never found.
Wow, that is super interesting and disturbing as well. You know, like a lot of these incidents that we hear now these days. You know, a lot of people, you know, we don't hear any of these deaths or anything like that, but these are straight out of the book. You know, these are
and if you
vicious.
do hear correct, if you do hear about deaths and attacks from other channels, this is the truth. They're basically all sharing the same story. They aren't getting out there and really doing the groundwork and finding more than just the mainstream story out there. And it's important because these victims need to be acknowledged.
I agree. I agree totally. You know, and I find a lot of times in this day and age, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, we don't need the truth. Just let them rest. Let them rest. But I'm like, no, if something has ever happens. Yeah. If something ever happens to me, I want the truth to be spoken. You know, if I took something I shouldn't have, if I was killed by someone I shouldn't have, you know, my soul will not rest until the truth is out.
And that's true because we have energy that resides in our bodies that flows out of our bodies. We interact with energy on a daily basis. So it's important that you speak to these things because no one else is going to understand anything if you aren't truthful. And people need to learn these things that because it just shows you how vast and how unique God is. But I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Yes, and we have to know the truth. You know, it's the truth has to be released. It has, you know, it sets us free. Is what it really does.
It does. It really does.
Mhm.
Now, when I started learning these things, just throughout the years, but most of it I learned on the fly. Like God basically, how can I word it? He gave me the shake and bake version of reality where I didn't have much time to react. I was just in it and doing this and that. And I was freaked out at first, learning things and realizing that I've in fact had these encounters. And I suffer from a really rare sleeping disorder that is pretty much amnesic. It's very rare.
Okay.
It happens. It comes on to a person that is prematurely born. And when I was born, I was only 5 months old when
Oh,
when I
wow.
was born. So parts of my brain were underdeveloped. So I developed a sleeping disorder. So a part of it, so I could be wide awake. Now it's under better control now. Now that I've been made aware and that's out in the light now. But I went for years without knowing. I have years missing from my life.
Really?
And but the Lord says,
that's scary as well. You know,
it
like
is
for
scary.
for
It
you
is very
yourself.
scary.
Mm-hmm.
I've been sleepwalking for a long time, just haven't outgrown it. And I have memories that have been returned to me, thank God. And those are where a lot of the encounters have came from too. So
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
scary stuff.
Why don't we get? Do you want it? Can we get into those encounters now?
Sure,
Your
yeah,
encounters?
sure,
Let's
yeah.
do that.
Of course we can. Yeah. Well, let's get into one of my encounters. Where is my okay? Here. All right, here is one of them, and this is in the book. 2001 Bear Creek Recreation Area, Valley Springs, California. This one I remember like it was yesterday. And a lot of people will have these encounters and these experiences and never say a word about it because they're afraid of backlash and afraid that they're going to get in trouble for even knowing this stuff. That's the truth. So I carried a lot of these with me for years and just pretended like everything was okay when it wasn't. So I just very recently, as of 2 years ago, came out and started publicly speaking about my experiences because I found YouTube channels where people were discussing these encounters. So all these that people are going to hear from me have never been told except for what is in the book. Yeah. So in the early fall of 2001, a bunch of friends and myself decided to take a late night trip to Valley Springs for a little fun. There were over 10 of us that headed up there. We were having a great time. I look at the time on my phone, and it was 3:15 a.m. All of a sudden, we hear this loud, deep lion type of a roar pierce the air, and it was really loud. It was so loud, my ears were ringing. Like it was like standing next to someone that just fired off a shotgun.
Wow. And where exactly was the sound coming from? Were you able to pinpoint where that sound was coming from?
It came from well, where I was standing, the sound came from directly in front of the tree line, because we were in this clearing and we were pretty much surrounded by dense trees.
Okay.
And except for the game trail that we followed to get to this spot. This is a really secluded spot because we were teenagers out doing stuff that we weren't supposed to, so we didn't want to get caught. So we went to a really good spot. So we hear this loud roar over our music that we were playing. I turn off the music, then five brown and silver type colored werewolves come walking out from the woods. They charge at all of us, pushing us out of the woods. We all ran back to our cars. The creatures followed us to our vehicles. I get inside of my car, I turn over the engine, and I speed out of there. When I checked my rearview mirror, one of the creatures was running behind my car. My friends were in their cars in front of me. I was the last one to leave. The creatures stopped following us once we got to the lights of the town.
Wow. And how many were there approximately?
Started out with, I think I counted 5, but I was being followed by one. Now I'm sure all of them were giving chase, but the way dogmen work is when they're hunting, it's almost like a military operation. You'll see one, but the others have dropped back and they are stealthily hunting you and getting ready to flank you. So I know for a fact all of those animals had my car surrounded. It was by the grace of God that I survived it. And it was so unreal. I was afraid, but at that moment I didn't have time for any emotion. I was just focused on getting out of there. But I couldn't believe what was running behind my car.
Exactly. And how long do you believe that creature was chasing you for? Like, and this is not the first time that I've heard this. I did an interview with Seth Carden, and he described that this werewolf, this dogman was chasing him, and it was keeping up around, like, I think he might have said like 30, 40, 50 miles an hour.
Okay. I don't remember how fast I was going because this was a really narrow, windy road. So I was going as fast as I could without swerving off. But here's the scary thing. It was basically right up against my rear end.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that is, yeah.
I can see full details. I could see it breathing.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And how can you describe this creature a little bit further, like size wise, build?
This one was probably about 8 feet tall. You know how, I don't know if you've ever heard people talk about the creature that they encountered, and they describe it as this real buffed, muscular creature. This one,
yes.
These were not. These
really?
were not muscular at all. They were big. They were large, but these guys were pretty much slim. They were slender, like a canine.
Okay.
But the only difference is they were running on and walking on their hind legs, and instead of paws, they had hands. But I could see full detail. It had a long muzzle. Yep. Dogmen have double rows of incisor teeth.
Really? Okay.
Their 2 sets of canines are not double rowed. They are normal, but their incisor teeth, their back teeth, are double rowed. Their claws Not all of them. It really just depends, but most of them, their claws are retractable like a cat.
Wow, that's something I haven't heard before. That's interesting.
Yeah. So when I saw it, when it was running, it was keeping up pace like it was nothing. But if I went any faster, I would have crashed. Then I'm sure that's what it wanted. But I could see its claws moving in and out like it was crazy. Like, yeah, it was it was nuts. It just goes to show that it was in thought.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And almost like if we think of cats, sometimes their claws go in and out when they're kind of almost in a relaxed state, like, was it just
they play with them?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly. Yeah, that's what
like
I'm thinking.
So yeah. No, but this thing, its claws were going in and out. I'm sure because it was on the verge of mounting some kind of attack, because at some point it grabbed. I had scratches on my trunk. It grabbed a hold of the back of my car, trying. It grabbed it like it was going to stop and like hold me there. That's what happened.
Wow. And what year was this again?
2001.
2001. Wow. Crazy.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, 23 years ago.
I've had a lot of encounters in that same area. Actually, I had 3 encounters back in 2021 there.
Do you believe that any of them are related, like the same creature?
No.
Okay.
Could be, because I believe they age. I think they have a lifespan like that of a great ape or a primate. Like a gorilla can live up to about 80 years. I think they share about the same characteristics lifespan wise as a gorilla or a chimpanzee.
Okay. And that, I'm going to say sure, because I have no idea. So I would say, yeah, it's really interesting. And how many were there in that first incident, that first encounter? How many were there approximately?
There were 5.
5 visible ones, I guess we could say.
5 visible. In these packs, there could be 4 members up to well past 20.
Wow. Okay.
They have been known to form what is called, well, wolves do the same thing, but wolves will form what is called a super pack, where it is this super, where there could be up to 100 members in this super hunting pack.
Yeah.
They share the same characteristics hunting wise, but they are a little more tactful than a normal wolf is. Okay.
Interesting. Really, really interesting. All right. Let's move on then to a next encounter. Okay. One of your next encounters.
Let me find one. Let me find one that's not super long. Oh, here's one. Here's a short one. This took place in 2021. Now, what I'm about to tell you is for some people out there, nothing in life, anything is possible. If you are in a situation where desperate measure calls for a desperate measure, you're going to use a desperate measure. So I was driving around in my van, and I realized that I needed to relieve myself. I drive to the river in Clements, California. This encounter took place a little after 5:30 a.m. I turn on to the road leading to the river. My van just suddenly died. I pull the van off to the side of the road. Here's the weird thing. When this happened, when my van just completely just went out, like everything just died. Everything. Nothing turned over. Not even the windows. Everything in the van died. Now, there are some instances and encounters where when people have had encounters, even with a Sasquatch, where their electronic devices go completely dead.
Okay.
So I think that's what happened. But so as soon as my van died, I had this bad feeling and like a terrible feeling. And I had the image of a werewolf popped in my head and I got freaked out. So at the time, I just lost my home due to the pandemic.
Okay.
I lost my home. I lost my business, lost everything. Me and my dog were living in my van. And so I get out of the car. So right before I get out of the van, I grab my sword. And if I didn't mention, I am a high-ranking ninjutsu practitioner. We are weapons experts.
Okay.
We rely a lot on a weapon called the ninja toe, which is a straight version of a katana, of a sword.
Okay.
So I grabbed the sword because I was freaking out because the image of the werewolf would not get out of my head and I couldn't shake it. So I grabbed my sword, get out of the car, pop the hood, and I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with the van. And I'm messing with the wires, shaking this, shaking that. And then I stop and I close the lid. Right before I closed the lid, I felt something was on the other side of the van. I could sense something there. As soon as I stepped around, there was, now here's the truth. You'll hear stories of people explaining what these animals look like and stories of them being super tall, 8-9 feet tall, built like a bodybuilder. The ones I've seen have never looked like that. And most of them were not that tall, except for a couple of them were over 7 feet tall. But all the other encounters I've had, they were 5.5, 6 feet tall, barely 6 feet tall. But so I come around and there is this dogman standing there and it's slightly hunched and I freaked. So it slams its hand or slammed on the window of my van. I took that as an aggressive thing and I attacked it. I cut it.
Really?
On the